You're listening to Rod and Style Radio, the latest podcast brought to you by rodandstyle.com, which is where you can find links for merch, videos from our YouTube channel, along with stories and tech talk from some of the greatest folks in the culture. So grab the wheel, it's about to get wild. You've tuned in to Rod and Style.
Yeah, it was rough until about the Jersey Turnpike started getting light out.
Now that drive for y'all isn't too terrible now, is it?
No, it wasn't that bad. It was about a 5.5 hour drive.
Oh, that's yeah.
I live in Mass, so getting through New York is the toughest part.
Yeah, we took our trip to New York back in April. And
Right.
we had never been there before, never traveled really a whole lot. I hadn't been on an airplane in like 20 years. Yeah, we took that trip back in April, and neither of us could figure out, like, how the hell do you drive in New York City? Like, I couldn't do it.
Cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. That's it. It's rough.
Yeah, like the Lyft driver that picked us up from the airport and took us to our hotel. He was telling us all kinds of fun stories about driving in New York, and like we were talking about the fact that in Texas you don't typically honk at anybody unless like you're ready to back it up with something, and in New York it was just nothing but honking. Like, it was wild. But Justin, welcome to the show, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you hitting me up and talking about the fact that you've listened to our show and what we're doing and dig it. So it's always fun to have our listeners come on as guests. So what's up, man?
Not much. I mean, like you said, I listen to every episode. I love listening to it and seeing who you have on and everything. And it's just it's something to do when I'm at work. It's listening to the culture.
I started a podcast a good while back, and I got to that point where I wanted to be listening to more podcasts than music for a long time. And you're right. Like, when you're at work, it's just something. For me, when I was working nights, I worked by myself. So having podcasts like running constantly, you didn't feel like you were by yourself.
Yeah.
Or when you're on long drives, we have several people that hit us up all the time. That's like, I listen to you on my way to work, and it's like, okay, cool. We're somebody's morning on, hopefully a good part of their morning, but seriously, I do enjoy the fact that we have been able to have some of our listeners come on as guests and people who are in the culture. Because obviously, if you're listening to this show, you're probably part of your local culture. You're going out to the car shows. You're building cars. So what do you do as a daily job?
So I work at Factory 5 Racing. I build. I weld the Cobra frames there. So we do like all replica Shelby Cobras and Daytona Coupes and hot rods and all that stuff.
Wow.
So I'm
How
a
long have
welder
you
there.
been doing that?
I've been doing that now for 2 years.
Very cool. What's a typical customer for something like that? Who do you have coming through buying cars like that?
Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, from your regular guy down the street, to big shops. We get people all over the world, and they just we're shipping out crates to England, and Germany, anywhere, and it's crazy.
Man, that's a really cool job. I tell people I work on airplanes, and they're like, "Oh shit, that's cool." I think what you do is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard you say you work on airplanes and stuff like that, and I could never. That's scary to me.
That yeah no when I went to school for it, like school was just like a constant horror story of like, you don't want to screw something up because somebody's gonna come after you for it, and you don't want to mess with the FAA, because
Oh
they'll
yeah,
they'll they'll hunt you down if you make an airplane fall out of the sky. So it is a scary thing. So I worked at the local the international airport here in San Antonio for about a year, and everything that I worked on there was all commercial flying kind of things that the FAA is fully involved with. And then I went to go work in an engine shop that works on primarily military aircraft. So
yep,
the FAA doesn't have jurisdiction over that. But at the same time, we're still working on airplanes, and I try to like drill that into some of the guys that work for me now. That it's like, hey, like the little tiniest part that you think you're working on right now that means nothing, like it makes something go in the sky, and there
yeah.
is no pulling over on the side of the road when you're in the sky.
There's
So
no room for error.
no, not none whatsoever. So I try to drill that into my guys constantly. Like, hey, like pay attention to what you're doing, because even though the FAA is not going to come after you, somebody is. I promise you. So how did
Jeez.
you get into all this?
I it's a funny story. I mean, I've always been into cars my whole life. I think right from childbirth, I was into cars. And when I was about 10, my dad started working at Factory Fives, and he, as an impressionable youth, I was always around it, whether it was here at home, him working on cars, or me, going with my mom to visit him at work. I was always just like, oh wow, it'd be great to work there someday. So, I mean, I ended up into both of them. I build my own hot rods, and I work at Factory Five now, so it's
That's
kind of crazy.
absolutely cool. What was your first car?
My first car was a '69 Chevy C10 short bed, and
Nice.
that was right before the C10 craze kicked in, and we got it pretty cheap out of the newspaper,
Really?
and yeah, dirt cheap actually. We it had a kind of a beat up 350 in it, and you know, me being 16, I beat it up some more, and I broke the engine, and we put a big block in it out of a camper,
There you
and
go.
that was yeah, that was a pretty fun truck. I missed that thing a lot.
Man,
I
I
was
I
trying.
missed my first one too, man. I really do.
Yeah, that's
I
right. You had
mine
one, right?
I had a 79. I had a 79, yeah,
Oh,
square body.
square button. Oh,
And
cool.
those are going for stupid money right now too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it had a 350 in it. So the guy that I got it from, he was a longtime friend of my parents. Uh, and his son went to, I want to say, Texas A&M or something, and went for some engineering programs there. And while he was in college, he rebuilt that engine as a project for school. So the engine in it was like flawless. I mean, I could jump in that truck, it go anywhere I wanted. It was a long bed, so I'd screech the tires and the tail would just dance. I had to put cinder blocks in the bed of the truck just to get it to not fishtail every time I went somewhere.
That's
But
awesome.
it was such a good truck, and I ran into a lady that ran a stop sign, and
Oh,
it just never ran the same after that. Uh, Smashed up my radiator, so of course, first thing I learned how to fix was swapping out a radiator. Uh, it bent up the bracket that held my alternator. So my belt kept flying off, and I, not knowing anything about
oh
cars at
man.
the time, I was like, "Why does my belt keep flying off into my radiator and overheating my engine?" And realized my alternator wasn't in line with the other pulleys.
Oh,
So I had to fix that, and then it's like every little thing after that, it just kind of dwindled down to the point that I ended up selling the truck just because I needed something that was more reliable. But man, before that wreck, I could go anywhere. I could drive that thing to Canada and back if I wanted to. But
oh man.
but yeah, it's like the sad stories of your first cars that you're like don't think about, like when when we're kids, we didn't think about hey I'll get another one. And now it's like,
Right.
man, if I had a square body right now, I'd be in hog heaven for sure.
Oh yeah. I just it's tough up here, you know, because I mean, you'll get one that looks decent, and then you start looking into it, and it's kind of, man. Someone put license plates over the floorboards because it's all rotted out. We have major rot issues up here,
Oh
and
yeah, you're above the rust
oh
belt.
oh, it's bad. I actually had a 78 Suburban
Oh, okay.
two wheel drive. It was actually a Texas truck at some point, but someone put airbags in it and everything like that. It was, you know, it was awesome. It was a very fun truck,
Oh,
but
I
it was
bet.
just starting to get so bad. And that's actually what the engine is in my 53 now, because it was the best small block Chevy I've ever had in my life. So I pulled that out of it, got rid of the rest of it, and I built a cool car out of it.
When did you pick up the 53?
I picked that up in 2018. I was driving around one day. I saw the roof sticking out of a junk pile, and I pulled over into this guy's yard, and I kind of snooped around a little bit. And I was like, man, I really want to build this car. So I knocked on the door. The guy was willing to sell it to me.
And that's
So,
always cool. You know, that's that Christine kind of situation. It's
oh
like, oh,
yeah,
I see this car, I'm gonna build it right now.
yep.
You know.
Everything about this car from the beginning was like Christine, because it was an old guy with back problems. He's like, oh, get that thing out of my yard.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Don't bring it back
literally-
now.
it always reminded me of it. So it was crazy.
That's funny. It's funny you mentioned, you know, that you bought that with the 69. You said you bought it out of the newspaper.
Yep.
The first, like, you know, other than the truck that I bought as a kid, when I first started getting into hot rodding, the first car that I bought was out of the local newspaper, and I don't know if there's anybody out there now that will find a vehicle in their local newspaper now. At least, you know, with the way everything's gone now, it's like everybody
No.
shops on Marketplace, or, you know, even Craigslist
probably
is going
not.
away. But yeah, the first old car I got was a 51 Chevy, and
Oh man.
I'm really trying right now, because I had this wonderful idea the other day, that the two guys that helped me out on that car a lot, I'm going to try to get them to come and sit in the lounge with us and do an episode, just talking about some of the cars that we had at that time, because all three of us ended up getting cars around the same time. And then we have this epic story of how we got them to Roundup. So I'm going to try to get Ben and Abe to come on to the show and hang out with us. And we're going to talk about my first hot rod. So that's coming, folks. I'm going to make it happen. And they listen to this podcast too, so they've heard it now. So they're going to be worried that I'm going to be calling them anytime now.
That's not a bad idea. I like that.
So yeah, I figured, I've talked about it a couple times. Like it's coming up in conversations a few times about, like, Ben got the car that I wanted, and then, like, after he got it, he found the car that was in the newspaper. He's like, hey, I read the newspaper today, and there's a car in there, and you have to go look at it. So it's like he bought the one that I wanted originally, and then ended up finding my car. So it'll be a pretty good story, I'm sure. And then Abe actually had a 58 Plymouth, and he's a big fan of Christine.
Oh.
You know, the movie, the
man.
books, you know, both. Yeah, so he's also a reason why we live in the neighborhood we live in now. We bought a house two streets over from him and his wife. So yeah,
That's perfect.
I'm gonna get him to walk over here and get on the podcast. That's
Absolutely.
gonna happen. So
That's
tell
a
me,
great
man,
idea.
what do y'all got going on up there in New England area? You said that you tried to make it to Trog. I saw that nobody was
yeah.
able to do Trog this year.
Well, we
So-
were there. It was still a good time. I mean, there were still things going on. We showed up Friday, and they had started the swap meet they had started preparations for the race, and I mean, it was out of anybody's hands. I mean, we
Of
walked up to
course.
where the track was underwater. It was
Oh.
bad.
Yeah, I saw
So
the pictures where the signs were like just sticking up above the
yeah,
water barely. It's like, oh
yep.
man. So,
So yeah, I mean, we checked out the swap meet and started checking out cars. Then we got the notification our Airbnb was ready, so we headed out. And during that, we read on the Trog page that it was over, and I'm like, oh man, we just drove this far. We're gonna make a weekend out of it now. So
yeah. I mean, did you get to hang out with folks while they were there? I mean, I'm sure
oh,
nobody was
absolutely.
wanting to like turn around and drive back that same day, but some
No,
people
people were there
probably
for the
did.
whole weekend. Yeah, a lot of people did leave Friday night. Um, but we actually met a lot of cool people there. They had a big band thing going on at a bar. Uh, that was Friday night, or yeah, that was Friday night, I believe. But we met some land speed racers that were, loading up a car on the same street as us. And, like, it was crazy. They were like, "Oh, come back to our hotel afterward.
Oh,
We're
that's the
having,
best.
like a happy hour." I'm like, "Oh, this is great. I get to hang out with land speed racers that race Bonneville regularly. Like, this is crazy."
Have you ever
And
made
it's
that
just
trip?
not yet. I want to do it so bad.
We do too. I've never been out to the flats. I really would love to see that, especially during Speed Week. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely a bucket list thing for us to want to try to do that. This year we're talking about hitting Starboard, in Oklahoma in
Mm.
February.
Yeah, I'd like to get to that one.
That'll be a lot of fun if we can. I'm sure we're gonna make it happen. We said we were gonna try to make it happen this past year, and things just started piling up on us. But this year, I think with everything as we settle into where we're at now, I think there's going to be some more shows that we pile up onto this year. Speaking of the pre-war pileup, the guys that we got to hang out with in Oklahoma a couple months ago, they're going to be doing
Hmm.
that again soon, putting out more flyers for it. So we will be promoting for that. If you can make it down to Oklahoma for that, that'll be a lot of
Oh,
fun because they're kind of basing that whole idea off of the things that they liked about Trog.
really?
So, it's all, like the pre-war, traditional stuff. So we had a lot
Right.
of fun at it this year, and next year is going to be bigger. So,
Cool.
might want to try to come down south for that one, man.
I need to get out. I want to go to the roundup. I've been wanting to go to that for you know ever since I was a kid, and anything out that way, I'm sure it's just 10 times better than anything up here. But we got quite a few shows up here as well. They're starting to pop up. We got, like, I don't know if you've heard of the Pine Tree Jamboree.
The guys from pre-war went to that as well.
Yep.
I saw they posted up some pictures from that, so that looked like a lot of fun.
And they're starting up another one too. The same club, I believe, the Tornadoes. A couple buddies of mine are in that. Um, they're doing one. I think it's called, well, East Coast Vintage. I can't really remember the name of the race right now, but bad advertising.
Hey, that's fine. They didn't pay you, so
No, but
it, that's where I
they're
screw
starting
up.
up.
They pay me, and I still forget to say their names. Yeah.
It's Memorial Day weekend next year, so if that helps. But
Memorial Day, that happens in what? Oh, that's in
May.
May. Yeah. See, Memorial
Yep.
Day weekend this year was Beatersville, and we ended up at that. That was the last long road trip that we went on. Uh, so when people actually hear this podcast, because I don't know if anybody knows that podcasts are not live, it's very tough to do live podcasts. Uh, our podcast, at least. When people actually hear this, we'll be on the road home from Evansville, Indiana. So we're going to go to Evil Shindig, or we did go if you're listening to this on Monday, to Evil Shindig. And Sam's probably driving right now. So go ahead and send her all the text messages that you need to. She will definitely read them all. She's cussing at me
Ash,
from the bathroom right now. I can tell.
as she's going 95 down the highway.
Oh, absolutely. It's all, no, we're not speeding through Little Rock right now. Uh, yeah, no. But yeah, with these long road trips that we're doing, we're trying to plan a few more next year. But I think, uh, minus Oklahoma, because that's an easier one for us, because Texas and Oklahoma are closer than they want to be.
Yeah.
I think any of the other road trips that we take, we're probably going to end up flying, because it's tough when you have to take off so many days to try to get somewhere and then be there and then take off so many days for the drive home as well. So I think we're going to, if some of the longer stuff, we're going to try to fly out too. I'm not a great flyer, if anybody remembers me going to New York. I'm sorry for the folks that were on that airplane.
I kind of got thrown into flying. I'd never flown until I helped my buddy move to Texas. Actually, he moved up to Huntsville. And
ooh, fun.
yeah, I drove his pickup out. It was great. It was awesome. I was able to just, he gave me a crew cab dually loaded full of his stuff. And he was like, here, just drive it.
Head
I'll
that
pay all
way.
the fuel. Yep. So I drove all the way down to Huntsville. That was an awesome trip. And I had never flown. And I'm like, all right, how am I getting home? So I
here's
had
your
to,
ticket home.
yeah, I had to get over my fear of flying very quickly.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that was my first flight, was Texas to home. And then I've been back to Texas a few times since then. I love it down there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
it's funny to move to Huntsville on purpose.
Yeah.
Because most
it was for
people get
college reasons.
oh, college. All right. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yep.
most people get sent to Huntsville court ordered. There's a nice
Yeah.
big facility out there.
They have a few. I may or may not have yelled at a few of them.
Driving
pretty
past
hammered.
them.
Pretty hammered.
It's funny that those highways they have signs that tell you not to pick up the hitchhikers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
We
really
have-
gets me is the back roads out there. Once you get into those farm roads, 80 miles an hour.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, this is insane. We
they
were
love
going
that
80.
shit.
I think we were heading to dinner in, I think it was Leona Steakhouse, Leona General Store. By the way, check that out. We were going 80, 85 down this back, farm road. We got passed by a Chevy Silverado, probably doing 120. I was like, wow. I mean, it's similar to up here with the aggression, but I'm sure that guy was just like, hell yeah.
Right. He's like, I got steak to eat, brother. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, some of those back roads in East Texas though, you don't want to get messed up on.
Yeah.
But you got to drive through some of them to get into Louisiana, and that's where the real fun starts.
Oh, geez.
When I was in a band, we drove. Oh man, yeah, we drove through Louisiana on I-10, headed to Florida to go play a show in Pensacola.
Oh, wow.
And it was there was a hurricane in the Gulf, so it was right after Hurricane Katrina happened, so everybody was like real worried about any kind of bad weather. So we were on I-10 going into Louisiana. Everybody else and their mother was on I-10 coming out of Louisiana, and we were able to get through right before they shut down all the highway. We get to Pensacola, the weather was beautiful. You wouldn't even thought there was anything going on in the Gulf. I mean, it was just sun out. Everybody's playing on the beach. We hung out with some Rastafarians. It was rad. We headed back to town, or back to Texas, but they had I-10 closed and sent us up onto I-20. We got into some back roads of, into Texas, and then all I hear is my drummer just start shouting the most cuss words I've ever heard. And I look up just in time to see a sign that says, "Welcome to Louisiana." We got turned around somehow. While we were already home into Texas, we got turned around on some roads and ended up back in Louisiana for a second time.
That's frightening.
Oh yeah, we had no clue where we were at, and this was like before everybody and their mother had GPS on their cell phone, so we
Right,
were
you're
like
working off
busting
of
out
printed out
maps.
MapQuest.
Yes. Yeah, we were totally busting out maps, and we are like, I think I saw where this ended up, and yeah, no, it was absolutely nuts.
Wow.
What So I know you got your 53 now. What other, builds have you done in your own garage?
So around the same time as the C10, my dad and I built the '55 Chevy four door, and that was another car I drove around to high school and all that stuff. And that was a fun car to build. Um, for myself, I got into a couple mini trucks here and there, just to because I've always wanted to do one. So I built I bought one that was already bagged. It was a Chevy S10, and I went through the whole entire truck, made it my own, and made things right on it. That was really the last big build that I did until this 53 I took on.
I had a
So,
2000 S10. The it was a four cylinder, and
yep,
what was the one that everybody wants? It wasn't.
the
It,
Extreme.
yeah, the Extreme. It had the Extreme body kit on it, but it was a four cylinder, so it
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
an
they came with them.
actual. Yeah, it wasn't an actual Extreme. The guy had just badged it like one, and I drove that thing around until it got broken into. They ripped
What are
my
they taking?
stereo out of it,
Oh
and
man.
they couldn't get it out. The guy that was trying to steal the stereo couldn't get the whole thing out, so he broke my dashboard to pull the radio out of it. I wasn't even mad, other than my driver's side door never locked, but they
Yeah, they
still
could have just
smashed
opened
the
it up.
window.
Of course.
He could have just opened the door, got it what he wanted, got out. No, they still smashed my window. So I ended up never fixing up that truck. I had so many plans
Yeah.
for it until that happened.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. I mean, I've had about nine of those trucks. So another one I had, my last one. Speaking of the wreck you had with your '79, that ended pretty similarly. I mean, this was a really nice truck. I had the ZQ8 wheels on and all that stuff, lowered down about 7 inches. It was a really cool looking truck, and I had a lot of plans to paint it up and make it look nice again. And this 92-year-old lady backed out into the road as I was driving, and there went that.
Oh,
So I was able to fix it and all that. I was able to drive it for a couple more years, but it just never looked the same, and it was never quite nice again. So
what's funny though
it's
is like I'll catch all kinds of hell for this, and Chuck will probably fire me. But you know what? Like every time that I've like had a terrible issue happen with a car, it was probably a little old lady that just did not
Mhm.
need to be driving in front of me.
Absolutely
So I get in trouble for saying women drivers no survivors, but you know what?
elderly.
They'll get over it. No, Sam though, she drives 100 miles an hour everywhere she goes and doesn't have any issues whatsoever. So I
Lucky
know
dog.
it's not the woman gene, but there's some in San Antonio that just should not have their licenses anymore.
Oh yeah.
But I can't say that, right? It's rude and not politically correct. But wonderful podcasts. They're not going to cancel me.
No. Cancel proof.
Exactly. Yeah, the is it the the folks that run all the broadcasting rules and regulations, and was it the FCC or whatever? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
fuck them. Oh well.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I know I'm rude sometimes. You mentioned you had some friends that were in car clubs up there. Have you ever run in any of the local clubs or hung out with any of them?
Yeah. So I belong to the Red Devils Car Club.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yep. That's It's been around since '58. It's one of the original ones in Norfolk County. I know a lot of people up here, and it's kind of, we're friends with the Road Devils, the Leadfoots in Rhode Island, just anybody, tie rods.
Very
A lot of
cool.
old school clubs. The Creeps, those are newer style club, but everybody's all into the same thing. It's just there's a lot of hot rod culture up here, new and
That's
old,
super cool. Yeah, the Road Devils, and that's a
nationwide.
yeah, that's a huge club. I think I ran into some of them at Roundup, and they were actually from Ireland.
Yep,
Yeah, that was
yep.
that was pretty cool. Roundup. You mentioned wanting to come down to Roundup. It's a
Oh,
wonderful show. It really is. We are kind of spoiled with it because it's only an hour away from San
yeah, it's
Antonio.
right there.
It's right here in Central Texas, and it's like one of the biggest custom shows there is. Uh, for our style of culture, like it's everything, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of get spoiled with it, and we get to see things that people want to travel from all over the world to come and see. And I forget about that, so I'm just like hanging out in Austin, Texas, and walking around, and it's like just wild when you're meeting. Oh, you like cars, and then they come out off with a super strong accent, and you're like, whoa, where are you from? Like, like this is our backyard, so it's like, man, people actually come from all over the world to see this, and it really is like
Oh yeah.
one of those type of shows, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger. I haven't actually been to Roundup. You know, definitely before COVID. I think Sam and I went to Roundup when we were dating, so that would have been like 2019. This is the last time that I went, so it's been a few years. And
Wow.
this upcoming one, Rod and Style is talking about being at and having a booth and all of that. So it's in the works that we're going to be hanging out with our friends Chuck and Scratch, and everybody that's helping out with their brands and stuff. So possibly we'll be set up there for podcasting. We'll do some recordings and hang out with some people. So if you're gonna come to Roundup, I think you should just go ahead and get your plane ticket now. Just saying.
I really want to. I would love to do that. Because I've been talking about it for years. My original plan was to build some kind of car and drive it down, but that's very far fetched now that I know how much of a drive that actually is. So, I mean, I would definitely like to get that on the, you know, get that on the ball.
you know, it's not so far fetched to build some cars and have them reliable and drive them down. Um, honestly, I'm not the type of guy that really cares if somebody wants to just throw their car on a trailer and bring it with them. We were talking about that trailering Sam's Buick up to Indiana, and we just lost time, to be able
Yeah.
to prepare for it. My truck can't pull a trailer anymore. Like I've beat the hell out of that transmission enough. After we brought home the Oldsmobile, I said I was not pulling any more cars with this truck. But then again, the Oldsmobile is a big old clunker, so
Oh yeah.
and the Buick is just a land yacht, so it's like I don't want to pull any more heavy cars with this truck. But I personally like. There's a lot of people out there that want to be like, oh, it's a trailer queen or whatever. But it's like,
Nah. For
a
the amount of
thousand
time that,
miles.
yeah, that's a long drive.
It
I mean,
is.
I don't see any issue trailering it. It's kind of, I've done it. I mean, when I first got my car together, I trailered it closer to a show, and I left it at my buddy's shop, and that was the first big drive I did was from his shop to Viva East up here,
Oh, nice.
and so it was only about a half hour ride, not crazy, but I just finished the car, so I was like, I'm
Of
not driving it
course.
from my house to there. It's only an hour and a half drive, but still, I mean, this car has 20 miles on it.
But
So
you all also think about the fact that some of these cars, of course, you want to build it as safe as possible, right? Like that's the goal.
right,
Has have as most fun. That's the safest you can be. Is always there's always some kind of goal towards that. But you think about it. You put a bunch of money into a car. Even if you build it on a budget, you're still spending money on building a car. You want to make sure that you get it to where you want to show it the safest you can.
right.
And sometimes driving it, especially if it's a fresh build and you're still testing out some of the bugs. Sometimes driving it on a highway with a bunch of crazy assholes is like not
I wouldn't.
something you want to do
Yep.
either. Texas has
That's,
plenty of them.
oh yeah. I've seen enough craziness from Houston, and that was driving through those highways is just nuts.
Hey, it's bright in here. Sam just
Oh
clicked
wow.
on a bunch of lights for me. Yeah, no. Oh man, I think on our last podcast that we recorded with Azrael, I was talking about driving through Houston for the first time when I first got my license. Yeah, no, there's plenty of crazy on that highway for sure. Um,
It,
and when you're driving an old car that you're not quite sure about yet, or even if you are sure about it, even if it's your daily driver at home, sometimes when you want to take it out on a big trip, my whole thing is getting to where you're going. I
right.
don't like being on the side of the road. It sucks.
Mm-mm.
And I've learned most of my education on cars on the side of the road. So I'm not into it. I would rather just get it to where we're going and then we can take it off the trailer, cruise it for the weekend. And then when the weekend is over and it's time to head back home, just throw it back on the trailer. I don't see a problem with that.
Absolutely. I mean,
But
if I had known how good I actually did with the car, I mean it hasn't broken down yet. So I haven't really done anything different to it. I just I've been driving it, working the bugs out of it, tweaking a little bit, and it's good. So I mean, now I'm getting ready to on the 22nd. I'm taking it to Connecticut, and that's we're going to the Hot Rod Hootenanny. That's a
oh, that
big show
sounds
out
fun.
here. It's an awesome show. The Others Car Club puts that on, and it's just a great time. My buddy and I, that was the only car show that was going on in 2020 up here. My buddy Mike, we hopped in his 50 shoebox and we just we blasted out there. We're like, hey, let's check out this show. It's the only one going on. So we went there. It was like, holy shit, how have we never seen any of these cars? This show is amazing. So ever since we've been back. So
Man,
it's
we
just
might have to
it's an
try to
awesome
put
time.
that one on for 2023. I know we can't make it next
Definitely
week, so
kind of short notice now. But,
yeah, no, I think if we
so
can swing that one, do another trip up east. We
yeah,
we did enjoy some of our trip to New York. Uh, we got to meet some cool people and hang out with friends that I've been friends with on social media for a long time, and then finally got to meet in person. Uh,
that's cool.
and that's always fun, man. For us, when we started doing the shows and we started, Sam started doing the pinup contest and all this, like we started getting a little bit of a following. So then when we see people like, hey, come to our town and come check out this or that, the other, we're starting to get to meet people that we've been friends with, but not actually meet in person. And it's really cool. So like, our trip to Kentucky was like that. We'd love to make another trip back up, to the East Coast and see some of what y'all got going on up there.
Oh yeah, I mean there's so many shows, and then there's a lot of quality ones too. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard of the Tie Rod's Car Club, but they put on a big one. That's all historic hot rods that were actually around back in the day.
Wow.
Late '50s, early '60s. Just that pure East Coast style. Um, very high quality car show, and there's a ton, that mimic that. And there's one actually coming up too, called the Gathering of the Faithful. It's like that show but miniature. and that's kind of right down the street from me. So I'm kind of looking forward to that one.
Yeah, there you go. Those are always the good ones, right? The ones that it's like right down the street. I don't have to buy a
Yep.
hotel. I don't have to, worry about a whole lot of other stuff or being on streets I'm not familiar
Yeah.
with. That's always the worst, isn't it? Like when you're taking an old car to a show and you don't know where to park. That to me, that's one of my
Yeah.
nightmares.
Yeah. Luckily, we have a lot of. I mean, to drive across Massachusetts takes about the same amount of time in Texas to go to dinner. So,
You are not lying, man. My trip home from work every day is 30 minutes, and that's
oh yeah,
flying. I mean, that's not even that's not even sitting in traffic. That's hauling ass home. It's 30 minutes. So
jeez,
yeah, we tell everybody to get out of Texas in any direction for us is 8 hours.
it's a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Oklahoma's 8 hours north, Louisiana is 8 hours east, and New Mexico is 10 hours west. So yeah,
Wow.
it's ridiculous. But yeah. Like I said before, we'd love to start making some plans to get some more shows onto the calendar and start hitting up some places we've never seen before. So
Yeah,
Massachusetts, Connecticut. I
this is
mean,
definitely the place to do it. There's a lot of cool stuff up here for you guys to check out.
that and to see a different type of car culture, because I mean we're all
Right.
kind of like swinging around in the same like custom
You
culture,
always, yeah,
you
you
know.
always see the same people, and it's
But
cool. It's good to see all your old friends, but I mean to meet new people and see new cars. I mean it's always cool going to a different area, seeing different stuff.
yeah, you see different, ways to build things, or what's cool
Right.
on the east is not necessarily what they're doing on the west, or vice versa, right? And then, of
Right.
course, down here in what we call Third Coast, um, we just kind of like mimic a little bit of what we see on both sides, and then come up with our own spice for it. But like it's really cool just to to go to a different spot where they're like we build things that only have fenders, and then you go to another spot, it's like we build things that never have fenders, and like there's different thought processes depending on where your coolness comes from, I guess. What's cool, what's in that cool factor for you is to me it might be one thing, and to somebody that's out in the East Coast it might be something completely different. But it's for
Absolutely.
me also, it's always cool to see what other people's thought processes were when they're doing things like this. So
Oh, it's always insane. When you're looking at just the pure ingenuity of some of these cars, it's just you get a lot of ideas. I mean, I've been studying hot rods now at shows since I don't even know early 2000s, and I've gotten so many ideas, and I'm finally gonna start building my own hot rod with all these ideas I've gathered.
what would be I mean, let's start with the base. What would be the car itself that would be like the ideal start to a hot rod build?
Well, for me, I mean, I like the Model A's the best. I mean, it's the go-to other than a Deuce. Yeah, but
Oh yeah, right.
I just love Model A coupes and roadsters, and that's probably where I'd start with a Cooper Roadster. And
Yeah. That's where I'm at with it too right now. Like I've got it in my like head. I'm like I kind of got the hot rod like bug right now, and I think I'm in that same spot right now. I think a Model A is just something that would be a great start to something for my next build as well.
yeah,
Uh, Nailhead driven, just because I'm a fucking Buick
oh
nut.
yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah, so I was actually talking to Chuck about this. Like, if I had my way, I'd do a coupe with a nail head, and we were just bouncing shit back and forth. Like, well, do you want fenders or no fenders? Do you want, you're gonna run a hood, or show everybody the engine? It's like, yeah, I got the bug for it right now. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, Model A, man, that's where I would be at with it too.
Yeah, I'm actually the only thing I don't have is a body, but I'm starting to build. I'm going to start getting this build going. I actually picked up a '56 Rocket
Oh,
324. It's a low mile engine. The guy pulled it out to do an LS swap. I'm like, "What do you want for this?" He's like, "You want that junk?" I'm like, "Yes, yeah,
it's all,
yes, I
yeah,
do. I think
sell
you're
me
making it."
that boat anchor. Yeah, for
So I got it.
cheap.
I got it for dirt cheap.
Oh,
So,
shit. No shit.
oh yeah. So
Oh,
I feel like I scored pretty good on that. So I got that. I have a 50 Olds transmission with the bell housing, which is a pretty rare setup. It's basically a LaSalle transmission,
very cool.
short tail shaft. So I'm going to do when I do get a body, it's going to have a heavy channel, no chop,
There you
pure
go.
East Coast style. I want it to look like it came out of like a 1958 Little Books, like the magazines.
Yep, yep.
So it's going to look, it's going to look 100% period correct.
You know, it's cool that you mentioned little books. I always talk to people about things like that. You know, it's like,
I love those things.
when I was like, really, sick with it, like really getting into like car culture and hot rods was just everything when it was new to me, like I was just like full blown into it. And I had like magazine stacks that I bought off of eBay. Somebody was just selling collections and I was just buying them up. I had stacks of magazines like you wouldn't believe. And I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know any of the cars that were in them. Like, how some of these guys, like, they know the names of all these old customs and they know the guy
Oh
that
yeah.
painted it and the guy that, sanded the left fender and everything
Yeah,
about it. I was
that's
just
me.
sitting there flipping through these books like, nobody's business. And I had a ton of those little books. Uh, and I think what Trent Sherrill's doing right now with Speed and Culture
Oh
is, just that magazine right now is probably one of the coolest things that the culture has
yeah,
seen in a long, long time.
he's done some unbelievable work.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So,
It's good to have guys, the younger guys to continue on. That's all I want to do. I just want to continue on the legacy of these hot rods and keep the custom culture alive.
no,
So
absolutely.
it's
And, some of the people that have gone out of their way to create that that traditional feel with some of this media stuff that's coming out now, like what Trent's doing. Like you have no idea like how inspirational that can be to somebody who is just getting into the culture or in the culture, but you know maybe losing the vision and losing the vibe of it, and like to be able to see like the cool stuff that's
right.
coming out. It's like that inspires people to get back in the garage sometimes, or it inspires people in a period right now where it's like they want to go out to car shows and they want to show off and what they've got, and they want to just get all of this this terrible vibe that we've had in the last couple years out of their system, like get back to going to car shows and get back to doing cool shit again. So
Absolutely.
that was my standing on the soapbox, folks. Oh
I'm right
man.
there with you.
Yeah. But I will let you go, man. I'll let you get back to your normal daily life and let our listeners get back
Cool.
to work. Remember, if you're listening to this on Monday, please send Sam as many text messages as you possibly can. She will love to read all of them while she is driving home. She is
I'll
giving
have
me the look.
automatic. I'll have automatic text set up.
You're gonna get all the automatic responses back, and like she's gonna do the custom automatic response that just tells everybody to fuck off every time she gets a text message. All right, folks. Well, you know what to do. In all things custom, keep it cool.